Hello YouTube. I'd like to do something a little bit different today. I want to talk about video games. Now, anybody who takes a quick glance at this channel would know that I like video games. I have several thousand videos of me playing video games. What people might not be as well aware of is the fact that I love video games. And today I want to talk about why. See, something else that a lot of people might not know about me is that I love reading and writing. In fact, writing is the thing that means the most to me. Creating stories. Which is why video games are so important. See, I'm a little bit older than a lot of YouTube people. People that are seen to be the face of gaming. Younger. 20-something-ish people. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people of that age being into it. But see, I come from a time a little bit before them, when video games were still very much in their infancy. I wasn't there for the very beginning of them, I'm not that old. But I was there in the 80s when video games really started to first hit the mainstream, before they became normalized. And that was something that was actually looked down on by a lot of people. It was the new fad. It was having the same sort of problems that anime is having now. Granted, they weren't saying that people who play video games were pedophiles, or that video games were pedophilia, although there are people saying that now about some games. But it was still... it wasn't really aimed at children, as much as people think. They were aimed as entertainment, a new form of entertainment. Just children latched onto them. Children are the ones who were most interested in that kind of thing. And I was, of course, one of them. But games at the time were very different than they are now. They were far more about the gameplay, about the presentation, about the overall experience of playing a game. That's changed a lot. Particularly in the early 90s, things started to get into telling stories. Very big, grandiose, very complex stories that have only grown more and more complex over time. And that reminds me of one of my favourite types of books when I was a kid, the Choose Your Own Adventure. For those who don't know, which is a shocking number of people actually, it was a book that was in little sections, usually a page or so. You'd read that page, and at the end you'd have a list of choices of what you could do. So, do you turn left in this dungeon? Do you talk to this person here? Do you attack this person? Do you leave? And like I said, I love stories. I love books, but those in particular, they made me feel like I was part of it. They were an active rather than passive experience of media, not like a film that never changes, or a novel that never changes. You might notice new things in it, you might notice something in the background that you haven't previously seen. But the Choose Your Own Adventures were actually moulded by decisions you made. Of course, there were a finite number of them, just as there are with video games now. But that's what video games are to me. They're the natural progression of that. As well as other things, of course, they're the natural progression of media in general. They're always going to try to find ways of reinventing the wheel. And I think video games are, so far, the best interpretation of that, because they do have the potential for you to be a genuine part of the experience. Some more than others. Very few have actually attained it yet. In fact, I don't think any have fully attained it yet, but we're still in its infancy. Still a very young medium. Look at film. It's been going around for 150 years now. That's still quite young. Theatre, hundreds of years before that. Books and stories, by word, thousands of years of history behind that. Video games, they're children. The best analogy I can give to that is think of it from the perspective of countries. America, as well known as it is, as big as it is, it's a child on the international stage as far as countries. We have an expression over here in the UK. In the UK, 200 miles is a long way. In America, 200 years is a long time. We have young buildings here that are older than that country. Young buildings. Britain as we know it, the idea of us being British is what, 1,000 years now? Something like that? The nation dates back way far further than that. We were invaded by the Romans. We got a lot of our culture from that. But for thousands of years before that, there were people here. So America's very young. By the same perspective, video games are very young as an art form. So you can kind of see the point that some people are making when they say it's a child's toy, but it doesn't quite follow. But anyway, putting that aside, the reason they're so important to me is because they can tell, they have the potential to tell, and in some cases do tell, to an extent, interactive stories that we are actively involved in. We are shaping what they become. And I don't just mean the games themselves. With the rise of things like early access, love it or loathe that, the community has become, the people who play the games have become part of forming and shaping and directing where that game started, where it's going, what it will become. Even games that have been fully released, Rainbow Six Siege for example, that was the first one to come to mind because it's the only competitive game I really play. The development team listen to what people have to say about the different characters. Especially our Lord and Saviour Tuchanka, who does not need any work done to him at all because he's perfect. And that's why they're so important to me, video games. Because of this point. That's why I love them so much. They give me a framework to experience new things and old things in a new way. And how can you not appreciate that? I mean, if you don't like playing games, fair enough, I can understand that. You know, it's not for everybody. Some people don't like watching films. I don't watch many films anymore. Some people don't like television. Some people don't like reading. Some people don't like looking at paintings and can't see the appeal. But I think that you should at least be able to understand the significance of what interactive media can do, because everybody has some form of media that influences who they are, that's important to them, that they enjoy greatly, that they are passionate about, whether you realize it or not. And for me, that's video games. And I want to start exploring that in more detail, because the Let's Play stuff I'm doing is a lot of fun for me, because I'm playing the games anyway, so it's very easy for me to just hit the record button and then record what I'm doing and talk about it as I go along. But it doesn't give me the same sort of chance to sort of gather my thoughts and construct them and get them down more cohesively, because I'm constantly reacting to what's happening, which I actually take as a challenge. I enjoy, in large part, doing that and trying to be cohesive with what I'm saying at the same time. It challenges me as a creator. It challenges me as an artist, and I don't mean drawing. Art is far more than just drawing pictures. Video games are an art form. That doesn't mean that every single video game is a piece of art. Sorry, it doesn't mean that every single video game is a work of art, but every video game is a piece of art, good or bad. And they can be more than that. And they should be more than that. And the only way they can do that is by people taking them seriously. So I'm hoping that I can explain why I take them seriously, and maybe more people will start to understand and take them seriously themselves. So, join me as I ramble inanely about something that matters a great deal to me other than my children. Because, in a way, video games and my children are the same thing. Or should I say, art and my children are the same thing. They're the history and the future of our species. I know that sounds really profound and self-indulgent and terribly gauche and really, really, really trite. But it's true. They're all part of what we are. And that's a really big deal. Don't know what I'm going to talk about next, but I'm sure it will be just as rambling and incoherent. But hopefully somewhere in there I can start to make sense of it all myself, because I don't fully understand it all yet. And I think it's important that I learn because it will make me a better artist. So, to anybody who stops by, feel free to tell me I'm a hipster douchebag. Wouldn't be the first time. I have a massive beard. Or agree with me, disagree with me, whatever you want. But please, just at least take the time to listen and try and understand. And if you disagree, tell me why. Because the most important thing as an artist isn't hearing what's great about your work, isn't seeing other great work. You become a better artist by exploring why something doesn't work than by looking at why it does. So thank you for listening.